So I'll start directly to more as the visions and plans for 2018 for what we think would be a good year again for the museum, 2018 to 2020, so 2018, 2019, 3-year plan as noted. I want to state to the original sort of statement that I made 3 years ago, just a bit adding to the context of building towards a globally relevant heritage center and model university museum. So my original vision was building towards a relevant model university museum. I think we've achieved a bit of that through the 3 years, but we want to expand it a bit further. I think globalization is important for the museum because biodiversity is one of our mandates, and being a mega diverse country, it's one of the key parts of what our mission and vision in the museum is trying to document and of course safeguard biological diversity in the Philippines, not only just in Mount Makiling, but of course all over the Philippines. And still that we are the teaching university, we are the national university, it's still important to emphasize that our collections were set together, combined from those original teaching collections. So it's best to look through at the past before we go to the future. One of my idols, I think, Lodi ba ang term ngayon? Lodi. Is of course Ernest Mayr. He is the father of evolutionary biology, but he was also a curator for ornithology at the American Museum of Natural History. So a fellow ornithologist, and I think it's fitting for him to quote as what he said when he first arrived at the American Museum of Natural History. It was as if someone had given him the key to heaven. So everything here in the museum is, of course, for us, especially for museum practitioners, as well as staff, as well as for the people who visit. It is an amazing journey to go to the museum, not just with the exhibits, but also through the collections. Isa siguro sa isang dream ko was for us to get hold of all the original heritage collection. Of course, it's still the mandate of the National Museum to have the original holotypes. Pictured here is the Cebu flower becker. It is the holotype currently at the British Museum or the Natural History Museum. Of course, hindi naman yung ma-repatriate. But in a sense, it kind of projects what our heritage collection should be. Something that is worthwhile and important. And it's also, of course, it's important that it reflects our biodiversity. And also, I think it's a good avatar for what we call the phoenix, diba? Starting from the ashes coming back. Kasi ito yung example ng species that got lost. It was considered extinct in 1920, rediscovered in the 1990s. So something that there's also always hope, as long as you work for it. Again, going back to my original vision for the MNH, just tweaked it a bit more specialized, bridging the old with the new approaches in museology. Last time I used curatorship. I think it's a wider context to look into museology, what museum curatorship and herbarium management is. It's also because it encompasses beyond the collections. It's not just the exhibits, not the collections, it's also the live collections. Going back to what we think was the border between something specimen, dead, in a collection, to something alive that you can sustain and you can use for education. So nag-merge na yung museum tsaka zoos and aquarium. Also wanted to put and highlight the importance of a heritage center because we have important collections. And also because most of the buildings that we have, our building currently is 1954. We have another building which is set in the Hortorium, which is 1927. They represent heritage buildings. And in a sense, our collection ourselves are heritage collections. Dr. Rabor, Baker, and also, of course, the entomological collections. And there's a lot of people to name in terms of who represents the heritage collection, the entomology collection. So it's important we emphasize that role as a heritage center and going further as a world-class university museum. So 3 things I see that is fit for that particular vision is modernization and the heritage status. It's about time that we recognize, siguro sana may marker tayo eventually through the Heritage Commission, And that would be recognized as one of the important museum natural histories in the Philippines. Modernizations, of course, we still have our dream of adding, I don't want to call it a new building, I want to call it an annex. Gamitin ko yung ginamit ni Sir sa obviously early annex building. So this is our building now, and we have our annex to help put together our diverse collection in one place. Again, because we are set in 3 different buildings. Looking into both national and global, I think plates represent that initiative of convening all the national collection, being relevant nationally first, as well as globally. And to put emphasis on us being a university museum, through the UP Charter again, the National University Museum, emphasizing on research, service, and training, and teaching. So, sa akin siguro these 2 pictures would represent an ideal situation because both of them changed their concepts recently. This is a collection from the original Raffles Museum of the National University of Singapore. Of course, ngayon bago na yung kanilang name. It's a little hard to pronounce because it's named after their Chinese benefactor. The Oxford Museum of Natural History still puts together the classic menagerie of their collection, but also has very state-of-the-art facilities. So maganda yung fusion of old and new. I still continue with that goal of putting together these 4 concepts into what we think is a model university museum. Collections management and improvement, I think the collections as such is still our bread and butter, what we have. It's where we do our services, it's where we compare the specimens and be able to identify. It's what we build on, it's also what we teach. Field and laboratory research and dissemination, it's being part of OBCRE, also originally was also part of OC. Research and extension is our core, so we need to conduct more research and of course publish the results. So sana po mag-increase yung publication output natin. I know it's still increasing, we still have a lot of IPAs and a lot of papers are still being prepared for publication. And with that publication, public relations exhibition is a core part of that particular initiative. Exhibition in the sense that we completed most of the original plans that we had before I came here in 2015. Meron ng existing plans for exhibitions, but of course we build on that further. I think it's sort of timely na when we do pursue with the renovation, it's our ability to kind of reorganize the exhibit itself. Because we have our new exhibits, there's a little bit of problems with flow. So maayos na natin yung flow ng exhibition natin. Eventually, we have a museum map. And for curator and staff structure and development, I think it's great that the museum is growing. It's building more people, and also their staff development, not just through the courses that most of our reps are taking, but also through training. And of course, almost all our curators are PhD holders. So to go through those 4 different sections, I think is important for achieving that goal of a model university museum, is to put certain priorities and activities that move those or at least improve each of those sections. So collections, management, and improvement, we'll continue kasi hindi po yung original plan ko. We'll just continue recataloguing and putting up a centralized database development. I know there's proposals for digitizing some of our collections, which matagal po yun. I don't think it's achievable in 3 years. There's a lot to digitize and a lot to, kasi karamihan ngayon, it's all online. If you go through checking the collections of other museums, it's not just the number itself, but also a representation of that particular specimen. Of course, again, we cannot put all the information. There's just a representation para malaman where to access certain collections. That includes printed hardback catalogs, e-copies supported with digital images of the specimens, their tags, as well as inclusive data. So this would be easily seen online. For example, this set of collections. This is part of the report collection. Of course, you can put all the data there, but representation that allows you which specimens to access. And you can add that online system and be recognized globally. There is membership. For birds, we have ORNIS, but now it's GBIF. Document taxon-specific preservation methods, encourage apprenticeship of staff and acquisition and management. We're hopefully that yung example na sinet ni Maria, ni James, at saka ni Jeboy, that were able to attend trainings outside the Philippines and build up on those within the staff for better implementation of the standard protocols that we have. Also to assign separate preparation labs, I think that's one thing. It's good to be together na. Meron naman tayong lounge kung gusto nyo kumain together, but working on your individual collections, it would be best to have separate labs, each equipped with the facilities that you need. Of course, at the moment, pwede kasi kukunti na yung gamit natin, the facilities itself. But eventually, it should be separate. One thing that we tried separating is the office and the collection. In a sense, hindi dapat siya combined. The collection is the collection, your office is outside. Kasi collections, of course, still are preserved classically in some of the most noxious materials, so health and safety is an important concern. We also need to elevate our preservation standards. We have done that for some of the collections, but still, marami pa tayong gusto gawin. For example, with cryopreservation, we don't have the -80 yet, so eventually that would be a really good achievement for the museum, having a cryopreserved set of specimens. Sabi nga nila, frozen zoo. That's frozen zoo, frozen flora, frozen micro, dapat sama-sama yung lahat. Masyadong specific yung zoo, no? Sila papayag. Again, we want to achieve a larger concept of biodiversity from microbes to mammals. And with that, I think our partnership, or at least our membership in ICOM, will help elevate those standards. One thing I think would be best is to engage more of the staff. Kasi we have regular meetings, pero it's still hard to convene everybody. So because of our different disciplines and our different positions within the university, especially with the curators, we can put it into section meetings just to improve yung meetings itself for us to do more dialogue, which is what we do. And see also, evaluate what we have done and see further. So yung workshops. So again, in General Assembly of Curators. Because we are increasing in terms of, at the moment, have 30 curators. And with that, I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Venus Canilom, one of our early directors. For being too able to, si Mama mo yung example na masipag umaten po ng despite curator emeritus na po siya. Sorry. For field and laboratory research and dissemination, encourage more collaborative researches. I think we're building that with a lot of different projects from each of the sections. What we do need is a standardized inventory. We're building that with some of the projects such as Canopy in terms of faunal inventory, floral diversity. Same thing with the cave training, maganda na ma-standardize siya. That could be used further nationally. So DNR hopefully will accept and sana gamitin nila yung standards na yun. Continue implementing some of our kind of functional and very successful programs such as Biodiversity Seminar Series. Of course, we'd like to encourage more participation of our staff as well as your curators in international symposia. So we regularly attend certain sets of taxon-based symposia from BCSP to PAMS to BSM. And eventually, sana maka-attend lahat dun sa museum-based na conferences. So, isa namin dream, marami kaming sumama kasama dun sa 2019 na if ako pa rin po, is 2019 na ICO. We have continued involvement in national and international review programs. So we're finishing up with PRLC, which is a Philippine Red Data List in association with DNR. Hopefully we'll be also engaged with PARLC with that on aquatic resources as before. And individually, our curators and staff get involved in the review process needed for IUCN and CITES. Further, we'd like to procure state-of-the-art equipment and facilities, of course through both the university and external grants. Sabi nga ni Ma'am Delara, Dr. Delara, kaya po yan i-achieve through perseverance. Of course, pag may proposal at may specs, hindi ako na specs, makukuha po natin yung gusto natin na gamit. Also, we need to look into a facility or mechanism for integration of certain collections, because now with the advent of molecular techniques, which is very useful in systematics, I think there's one that we can convene all the different collections into a certain shared laboratory. And continue our support of both undergraduate and postgraduate research through our thesis program, as well as support for the subjects that are related to museology, such as supervision curatorship, in cave ecology, systematics courses. For the other range, for publication, public relations, and exhibition, we still want to kind of change some parts of the exhibition. Some of our exhibitions are still too classical. Some of them have achieved certain changes in terms of engaging the visitor, but I think it has to be more interactive. Even just with the sounds, no, laking difference na yung narinig yung calls ng ibon at saka yung audio interpretation is already significant, pero wala pa rin yung may interaction. But I think it's difficult to achieve with a certain visitor na, and mas kasi yung visitors natin sometimes they only have 10 minutes to visit the museum, they have to come in, get out. So yung engagement is very limited, so we want to improve that. Continue participation in local and national events. World Wetlands Day is actually February 2. I don't think we've prepared for that, so hopefully hindi tayo maiwanan sa Museum Day or International Day of Museums. Dito po si Sir Yapo. Happy Art Awareness Month. We also like to define and standardize our services and extension work. I think it's really important because we're having trouble in terms of kind of accepting some of the services, especially with identifications. Hindi pare-pareho yung protocols for preservation and accepting the identification process. Some students still think na, dadalhin nila dyan, bukas babalikin nila. It's not that easy. So kailangan, it's very important that we standardize it and streamline and make them aware that it's not easy, so you have to have a different set of citizens charter for each of those services. And with the standardization, I think we can achieve applying for national and international accreditation, especially ones in our services, as well as being a museum standard in the Philippines. One is membership, but also I think there are certain services that we need to have standardized and accredited. Especially now that a lot of students come here for identification with, I think, na close kasi yung identification ng National Museum. So dito talaga sila napunta. One thing what we haven't really achieved through the 3 years, of course, meron naman tayong initiatives, but we haven't expanded. It's still one little cabinet in the corner, is the museum shop. It's one of the enterprises that I think will help improve putting in income for the museum. Of course, it's amazing with the initiatives of the staff na nagawa silang t-shirts, amazing with the souvenirs. So kita nyo naman, hand-painted yung mga souvenirs, handmade yung mga souvenirs by the staff itself. So we have to improve that a bit further, make it more accessible to a lot more visitors. Continue to support our museum publications. At the moment, we are striving for completing our island edition of the MNH peer review journal. Still in the plano yung revival of Nature Philippines. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in the next 3 years. What we think is important also putting up museum guides. Pero with the system of visitors at the moment, it's not that easy. Meron naman existing guides yung mga tour operators. I think one will be giving seminars to their individual guides itself. Or we'll have ready SAs to be trained, at least with what we have at the exhibit. But I think one of the issues also because our exhibit tends to change regularly, so talagang yung script would also change. For one to help with with grants and income, one would be creation of a museum club that organizes friends of the museum. Could help in linkages, facilitation for grants. I think that was the one which helped the National Museum achieve their 1 billion target, was because they had a lot of friends of the museum. And of course, the most important section that we need to improve is on curator and staff structure, so their development, because they are the core of what the museum is. All our services, all our collections wouldn't be there if not for the diligence of the staff and the curators. Especially with the curators dahil out of love yan because they're seconded staff. So enhance the current expertise, capability, encourage development also with new fields of specialization, both with systematics and preservation. Hopefully we could create new positions so that there's availability for that. We already submitted some of those proposals. Also, we defined certain existing positions, including coordinators within the staff. Invite adjunct and visiting curators. We've done that from the past years with 3 different visiting curators from Germany and from the US. Of course, we want to maintain the status quo at the moment. It's 3 curators because they are seconded staff, so we are dependent on the time that they are available from them. So 3 curators per 10 sections. So that's a total of 30 curators. Yes, your appointments are being processed. At the moment, meron itong tayong certificate because requirement that was FSR. We want to bridge the gaps between generations. So our curatorship has an expanded timeline in terms of age. We also want to review and organize existing offices or sections and define duties and responsibilities within our staff and curators. From the past kasi medyo na may mga overlapping DOR. So may mga duties pala na napupunta dito, iba yung gumagawa. So we need to help do a planning workshop and streamline or at least organize them to their proper sections. And hopefully, there is a winning streak within the museum. Every year we always have a staff curator or rep na awarded. So hopefully that winning streak continues in the next 2 years. museum. So we are actually nominated for the NRCP Awards, but we had to defer it last year. Hopefully we'll have a planning workshop and submit for this year. So there are, of course, problems that, and challenges that occurs in the museum. Still, the biggest problem is book. I'll put it there kasi talagang nadudurog na yung some of the cabinets and facilities because of book. It's one thing that we have a problem here at the CFN Quadrangle. And also with ants, as I said. So ants are both our friends and also a problem, including as well as the termites. So it's agriculturally old and outdated, so we need to consistently refurbish those and replace them with materials that would be less problematic. So marami na pong replacement of our original wooden materials na exhibits with metal and glass and acrylic. So we need to logistically decentralize. Yeah, mistake in that word. Currently we have separate collections which are logistically decentralized. So you want to centralize them. So one of the things that we want to do is hopefully create a museum building annex to put together all the collections in one area. I think there is that distinction. The museum will be placed here at the CFNR quad. Because there was always that presumption na hindi-lipat kami sa Baker. So at least when I asked CPDM, OBCPD, this would be our location. It's also quite historic having that heritage building. Of course, we still have limited funds, but still thanks for the support of the university, we are able to complete most of our targets. Still need to continue with help on resource generation, both internal and external. I think getting external funding is an important challenge for us. So we've done that with a lot of the projects, most of which are GAA, but hopefully we'll get better external funding. There's a lot of other sources. Sayang yung National Geographic ni James, hindi pa na-approve. So pwede ko siya applyan ulit. Also because the museum provides key support for academic programs, we need to harmonize that function with the academic institutions that they provide. So hindi pa masyado ayos po. So we are streamlining that with Cave Echo and the museum curatorship. Pero yung maayos na function of the staff who will be teaching. And if we want to improve our services, we need to improve our facilities as well as our equipment. So yes naman, we're getting as much of the new equipment as we can through the projects and acquisitions. Thankfully, meron kaming IMAX, but it would be nice to have all the sections having IMAX. Hindi po ba? Tuntok sa buwan. So I think, just trying to be nostalgic, about 3 years I've stayed with the museum. Hopefully another 3 years to add to that. So here's just some memorable moments. Siyempre madami po, I'll just have to highlight some of them. Yes, joke yung end of Harry Potter. We had that problem on the first run because nagka-issues kami in terms of papers and documents. Pati yung aking appointment took 6 months. We had to reshuffle people doing certain functions administrative, like si Jen po natuto mag-arrange ng basic papers. Si James, tumutulong kay Jen. So marami kaming reshuffling at that time, just for things to go through. We had a lot of field work. Was able to go to Tubataha, we went to Balisin, nakita ko sa kinasal si Hart. That was also memorable kasi yung last na kasama namin sa field, si Kahano. And we had a lot of involvements, both national, yung sa NAST with the Philippine Heritage Center, with the Red List, So yes, we have a lot of involvements which I think are of national importance. 2016, 40th anniversary, which I think is the best highlight for that. We also had two of our projects, coconut scale, insects and canopy, was in full implementation. Promote ko rin, nakapunta po ako ng Germany together with Mang Gadis through Biodiversity. So that was, we were able to see two different collections, not only the Marburg collection, but also the Senckenberg Museum.
Ah, yes.
So marami po kaming conference and seminars. And I think the most important was 2017 with CLADES, the Museum Summit that we hosted here in UPLB, and CISA, as well as my participation in ICOM. I think that opened my eyes in terms of what needs to be global. And lastly, with the cave training. The museum has been conducting a lot of cave trainings, a lot of projects and extension services in reference to caves. I think in a national scale, if you ask the NR or any other institution which regards to caves, they'll always point to UPLB because of that. Because in distinction comes with the promotion of the cave research of UPLB MNH. So first time po ako nakasama. So I think I felt at that time I kasama na ako sa cave program. Because it's so hard because being an ornithologist, lahat po ng ibon nasa labas ng cave. So hopefully, if given a chance, sabi nga nila second time's a charm, I have to say no to my sabbatical, if ever. Hindi ko na itutuloy yung postdoc ko. And I accept the nomination of the museum. Lord, thank you. And I'd be ready for the changes, especially with the evacuation plan. Hopefully that gets into swing this year. And we'll still strive to continue to fight for that. Of course, thank you for the support of the curators and the staff. So hopefully our proposed activities, I should present 3 years. I think I put up some of the things which are more or less achievable. One is our planning workshop for the evacuation plan. So what do we do eventually when there's the full closure of the museum building? So all our exhibits will be closed for the modernization of the MNH building. So we continue our plans for the renovation of the hortorium, as well as plans for, we do have plans already for the annex. We just need to resubmit further for inclusion of the GAA. Makakahanap po sana tayo ng sponsor. I know we have 3 senators, but hopefully our friends would help support us. There is existing proposals for the digitization of the collection database, especially for botany, nagsimula na. So hopefully we'll have continue that and expand it further to the other collections. There is an existing project doing the virtual museum. So we don't want to put all the museum there. It's just sort of like a snapshot of what the museum is. But again, that depends on the evacuation plan. We want to expand on biodiversity training with the success of the cave training, the short course in our relationship with TAMU. Hopefully we'll expand it further. There are some talks with DNR on other sections that need to be improved in terms of biodiversity training. Completing our initiatives with DNR in terms of the red list, but with the beginnings of the aquatic resources red list, then we'll have to continue with that. We also want to concentrate our priorities on field and lab research for this year with the evacuation plan, the closure, so we have to change the priorities to something more field and lab oriented, or at least collections management. And find alternative sources of income. For 2019, there is a proposal to have another clay. This would be in conjunction. It's still on the plans. Hopefully, maayos na yung ating agreement with the proposed AMRRC for 2019. Also 20 marks the next general meeting of the ICOM. So for the, I would like to attend, pero mas maganda na more of the staff and the curators will be able to participate in ICOM 2019 in Kyoto. We'll still continue to, if there are conferences associated with the other museum-based conferences, SPNH, Special Collections, UMAC University Museums, and of course the BRC Red List. Hopefully 2019, we'll start implementing plans. So with the finish of phase 1, we'll continue with phase 2, hopefully. Also submissions for the reorganization of the museum. We want to change some bits of the current organizational structure. Also submission of the standardized fees. Hopefully we could change our fees kasi sasabit natin ito sa BOR. So hopefully most of those changes can be incorporated in that proposal. And at the same time, we could start with implementing plans for the renovation changes in the Tortorium, especially the museum cafe. And officially, kunin na natin si Smiley magbantay. For 2020, I think that marks, because we had in our original letterhead of the museum, celebrating a decade of biodiversity. So that marks the end of that decade and start in 2010, ending with 2020. So hopefully we can do events for that, and associated with that would be a new museum portfolio. It would be amazing to have a portfolio. Every time people and visitors would come in on time, set brochures, postcards, more calendars, and of course publications. We want to implement plans. Hopefully by that time, may makuha tayong funding. We could always start with at least phase 1 of the museum annex, or at least further renovations of the auditorium into what we call the natural history park. So we want to improve the auditorium beyond just collection of flora, but also a site for fauna, insect zoo, Porsche Palaka, and hopefully in 3 years we could establish, I don't want to use fully equipped, better equipped, because then we have to be modest and try to do things achievable. A museum lab for better molecular and microbial analysis. And 2 things I think is what's called suntok sa buwan. It would ease a lot of functions of the museum if we get to be included under the heritage law. So at the current status, it's only just the National Museum. Hopefully being recognized as the National University Museum could also attain the status of inclusion in the heritage law. I know it's a very lengthy process, but I think it's important. It allows us to collect specimens and be designated to receive as a depository for holotypes. And lastly, for our buildings to achieve heritage status, I think it's time to recognize that small but interesting building sa kanto ng Gapud and Landican, which is what we call the auditorium building. We don't know what its real name actually. Hindi po namin maanap sa history documents kung ano yung totoong function of building. We just call it the auditorium building. But probably in 1927 when it was erected, it had its own status. So with that, I think I'd like to say thank you.